All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Jessica George, and I'm excited to welcome you to our first Heard McElroy and Vestal Career Readiness webinar series. We're going to be doing these once a month where we tackle a different career readiness topic. And so just really excited to kick this off. Before we begin, I wanted to take a moment to introduce you to Ellie Willcox, who is one of my former students at Louisiana Tech, and excited to see her go from student to intern to now colleague with me at Heard McElroy and Vestal. And so I really just wanted to have an opportunity to let Ellie introduce herself, share a little bit about her time at HMV, and then, of course, just encourage you to really make the most out of this webinar. So, Ellie?
Thanks, Jessica. So like Jessica said, my name is Ellie Willcox, and I am a staff auditor here at Heard McElroy and Vestal. So what that means is day to day, I'm going out to clients and I'm doing testing on their financial statements to ensure that they are materially correct and that we can rely on their financials. It's a great opportunity to get involved in the community and make the most of my accounting education. So a little bit about my background. I did my undergraduate degree at Louisiana Tech in finance with an accounting minor, and then graduated from that in 2022 and went on to complete my master's in accounting in 2023. So I interned with HMV this summer between my undergrad and my grad school years, and that was a phenomenal opportunity. And that's something that I never thought I would be able to do, but with the help of people like Jessica at Louisiana Tech that put so much effort into helping us, complete our resumes and really make those shine and help us practice interview skills and just increase our confidence on how we present ourselves professionally. It was a great opportunity there. And then I loved my internship so much that I came back full time in July of 2023, and I've been here ever since. So right now I'm actually out at a client working in town. So I'm so glad that y'all are here, and thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to spend time with us. Jessica, do you have
Ellie?
anything else for me?
Yeah, so I was just going to have you close with how important do you think a resume has played in your career success?
Oh, completely. Your resume is the first thing that anyone sees when they're viewing you professionally and they're thinking about hiring you. It's the first thing that they lay their eyes on. So if you don't have a resume that shines and can really show how phenomenal of a person and an employee that you'll be, then you really don't have anything. So it's incredibly important that you do your best to, have as many people as you can, lay your eyes on your resume, use those active words when you describe what you did in organizations and at different employers. So it's a great opportunity that we have here for you to make it perfect and do your best in everything that you can do on that.
Thank you, Ellie. I appreciate you sharing a little bit about what you do at HMV. Of course, we had to do a shameless plug on Heard McElroy and Vestal and what we have to offer for internships and full-time opportunities. I, through Louisiana Tech, worked with a lot of employer partners and just was always incredibly impressed with how just happy our interns were, and Ellie being one of those that came back and shared the wonderful news about her experience with HMV. And so now I'm very excited to be the talent acquisition and development manager for HMV. And so getting to share these same topics that I did at Louisiana Tech, but just on the opposite side of the table this time. Ellie, thank you so much for being with us
Thanks,
today.
Jessica.
We'll let you get back to work. All right. So before we jump in, I wanted to just tell you a little bit about HMV. So we are a full service professional services firm. We have about 175 staff members, over 75 years old, and we have 3 locations. So our largest operation is in Shreveport, Louisiana. We also have locations in Monroe, Louisiana, and Longview, Texas. So I see that we have a few students that have joined us for the session today. I did want to let you know that we would love to get in touch with you. We do have this QR code that if you scan this, put in information about your graduation year, what type of internship you're looking for. I, of course, would love to follow up with you and have a conversation about your career goals and how that could potentially translate to a career at HMV. So if you're interested, I would love for you to scan that QR code, and I will personally follow up and get in touch with you about opportunities that we have available. All right, so resumes, cover letters, references, and recommendations. So I mentioned that I worked at Louisiana Tech. I served as the Executive Director of Student Services and Career Placement for about 8 years. So this is something that I did quite frequently. I taught a career preparation course, and resumes and cover letters are, of course, instrumental in your career. And so this was one of the first topics that we would tackle in that course. And so today I'm going to give you kind of an abbreviated version of that, where we're going to talk about your resume and cover letter. If you have a resume that you are interested in using as a starting point, go ahead and pull that up. I would love for you to work on that as we go through the presentation. For those of you that are kind of, very entry level, very, very early on in that resume building phase, I will actually share a template with everyone that joined the session today. So don't worry about if you don't have a starting point. I will share a template that you can use and edit moving forward. Also want to mention that this webinar is being recorded. So if at any point you want to play it back in the future, that is absolutely okay. We'll share that recording with you as well. We're going to be doing different career readiness topics every month. So we encourage you to tune in as we tackle other important topics with your career, like resumes and job searching, and helping figure out what your career goals should be and what major or what career you should pursue in the future. So please stay tuned for those as well. All right, so now let's jump in for resumes. You're going to hear the passion that I have in my voice about resumes because it is such an important part of your story of being presented as a professional, as a potential employee. It can truly change the trajectory of your career, having a good resume versus having a great resume. So we're really going to break down every part of the resume and how you can best optimize the document that you have. So what is a resume? It is a summary of what you have to offer. It's a quick compilation of your education, your career objectives, your work experience, activities, awards and honors, and any other special skills that you have. So it is typically a one-page document. So there are a couple of exceptions for the one-page rule. If you're a non-traditional student, you've got a pretty expansive work history, then okay, you can go over that one-page rule. But for most of the time, students, we're going to expect a one-page resume, and optimizing your space is so important. So making sure that you're using half-inch margins if you need to instead of 1-inch margins, making sure that your font is not too large, making sure that your spacing isn't crazy spacing so you don't get to utilize that one page is also important. All right, pop quiz. Not really, everyone. You can take a deep breath. There is no pop quiz here, but I did find this really interesting statistic that shares just how important this resume is. So what is the initial amount of time an employer takes to review an applicant's resume? It's 6 seconds. And I don't know about you, but that's just kind of frustrating because I'm now on the opposite side of the table. So I'm in talent acquisition. So I help HMV find interns and full-time employees and experienced hires. And so I'm the one that's taking a look at that resume. And I can honestly say that 6 seconds reviewing a resume, that's pretty accurate. It doesn't take long to really understand if that candidate has what you're looking for. And so that's why it is so valuable that you put the information that's relevant for that career, information that is going to portray you in the best light, show that you have the skills that they're looking for in that job description. So a resume can absolutely be crucial in whether or not you land a really great internship, and that internship can determine whether you land a really great job once you graduate. So again, resumes are important, and that's why I'm so passionate about them. All right, so some resume essentials. One page. size 10 to 12 font. You want to make sure that it is a readable font. So Canva resumes, Canva is a graphic design site that's really popular right now with resumes. You absolutely can use a Canva template for a resume. Just make sure that it's still professional. There is very much a difference between a stationery and a resume. You want the font on your resume to be really easily read, nothing script or cursive or anything flashy. This is a resume is an area where you're going to put a professional presence. You want to make sure that you spell check and triple check. So I do resumes for a living, and I actually was helping my husband with his resume and had the word professional experience on his resume, and I misspelled professional. And I'd looked at that resume 100 times and I never caught it. And a colleague of mine walked by my desk, and I had my husband's resume right there. And she said, "Do you know professional is misspelled?" And I just was so embarrassed because I teach the importance of reviewing your resume and spell checking and have others taking a look. And it's oftentimes we don't catch our own typos. So it's really important that you have someone take a look at your resume. Another important thing is balancing good content, streamlined format, and neat appearance. It is absolutely okay to have multiple variations of your resume. So I was a management major in college, and so I had a management resume. I was also interested in marketing, and so I was applying for a lot of marketing roles. So I had a marketing resume. I was also interested in human resources, and so I had a resume that leaned in a little bit more on the HR type of duties that I had done. So it's okay if you have variations of a resume and you're picking which resume to use based on the job description that you're applying for. All right, so now we're going to break down the sections of a resume. Personal information, of course, you want to include your name. Mailing address is one of those kind of controversial topics on a resume. Some are saying don't put your street address, just put your city and state. I think that it's okay either way if you want to go old school and put your full address or just your city and state. Phone number is absolutely an essential piece because more than likely, if you turn in your resume to an employer and they want to get in touch with you about a interview, they're going to call you. And so having your phone number on there is very important. Email address is another important part for those of you that are students at Louisiana Tech or UT Tyler, or SFA or Centenary or wherever you're attending. Those school emails actually go away. So at Louisiana Tech, I think a student could keep that email address for 90 days. And then after they graduate, that email address goes away after 90 days. And so it's important that you create a professional email address that you use on your resume that is not going to expire at some point in the future. The last thing you want to do is spend 4 years building all of these networking connections and the personal or the email address, the way that you have for them to get in contact with you goes away. And so make sure that you're using another email address. Of course, you can use your school email. I'm not saying don't use it ever, but just know that for those long-term relationships that you're planning on building, it is important for them to have another way to contact you after that Louisiana Tech or Centenary or whatever school email address goes away. Another thing that I want to mention here is make sure your email address that you create is professional. So I taught Business 320, which is a career preparation course at Louisiana Tech, and I have seen my fair share of inappropriate email addresses. Sometimes in high school, we created something that maybe was a Hotmail account or a Gmail account, and it wasn't the most professional, but it was funny at the time, right? I actually have had the email address Big Booty Baller. That is not the way that you want to present yourself to employer partners. So, okay, if you created it in high school and it was funny then, but it's not funny now in college, go ahead, recreate another email address that you can use for all of your professional communication moving forward. Another thing that I want you to watch out for is whenever you name that email address, so you can name it Jessica's Gmail or something like that, make sure that it is a professional name. I've had a student that applied for a scholarship actually when I worked at Louisiana Tech, and they had someone open up their email in high school and name their email something very inappropriate. And so whenever they sent out emails, it would say this inappropriate name, and it actually became an issue on whether or not we wanted to give this student a scholarship because that was not a professional thing. And so we brought it to the student's attention. They didn't even know that that was there. They never looked into it and didn't know how to change it. And so it was something that we had to communicate to the student and tell them about the professionalism of it. So just know that those are important things to look out for. Ringback tones aren't really a super popular thing anymore, but don't put a ringback tone on your phone number that employers are going to hear and not paint you in the best light. All right, so I mentioned a template that I was willing to share with you all at the end. This is what it's going to follow. I'm going to show you several examples of it throughout the presentation. But first and last name is always typically in bold, typically in all caps. It doesn't have to be in all caps. The thing about resumes is there's a lot of different ways that you can format it. I'm less concerned with it's got to look exactly like this example and more concerned with, do you have the appropriate content? Does it look okay? Is it readable? Is the name the largest font that you have on the resume? And then you'll see that I actually put the address, phone number, email, and I even have a link for a customized URL for LinkedIn, which we're going to talk about in a future webinar. But for those of you that don't know how to do that, you can just Google, how do I create a custom URL for LinkedIn? Super easy to do. If you don't customize your URL, it's a long string of letters and numbers, and it's too hard for an employer to type in. So customizing that URL gives you a really brief just a way for those employers to be able to view your LinkedIn profile. And for those of you that struggle with getting everything on one page for your resume, that LinkedIn profile is so valuable because it signals to that employer, hey, look, I've put my customized URL here for my LinkedIn page because there's more things that I want to tell you. There's more things that I could fit to this one page. But you'll notice for contact information, I have it nested all on one line. And the reason that we do that is because we are maximizing this space. We have one page to tell our story, and so we don't want to spend 6 different lines just saying, this is our street address and this is our email. We want to spend that space for more valuable things. All right. An objective statement. An objective statement is, it communicates what you're interested in. Why are you applying for this position? It can be a short targeted statement that outlines your career direction. So you kind of have 2 options with the objective statement. You might choose to do something more generic. For example, career day, employer reception, something where you're going to be meeting a lot of employer partners. You're going to want to leave it a little more broad. You don't want to put seeking a position at blank company and then give that resume to another employer because that would be offensive. And so if you're attending a networking event where you're meeting lots of employers, then you're going to want to keep it pretty generic. So for example, seeking an internship opportunity in supply chain management. However, if you are just using this resume to apply for one position, then you can use this formula to obtain blank position with blank organization, utilizing skills in blank, blank, and blank. Now, what skills do you use to fill those blanks? Well, you look at the job description, and then that tells you what skills to highlight. You want to make sure that it overlaps with employers, what they're looking for, so that you can show that you have those skills. So this is our template so far. We've got contact information at the top, and then the objective statement. All right, moving into the education section. This is going to be at the top of the resume because for college students, this is the most marketable, the most attractive thing that you have to offer right now is that higher education. So for those of you that maybe received an associate's degree from another university and now you're pursuing your bachelor's degree, you're going to list those in reverse chronological order. You're going to hear me say that lots. Reverse chronological order means the most recent degree is listed first. So some important things to include: name of institution, and you're going to spell it out, no abbreviations, your degree, So at Louisiana Tech, it was a Bachelor of Science. For those of you that are attending other universities, it might be a Bachelor of Arts. You just have to look at the registrars. You can look at your unofficial transcript, and that should tell you what degree you're earning. You're also going to include your expected date of graduation. One of the most frustrating things for me as an employer now looking to hire students for internships and full-time opportunities is looking at a resume and not knowing when that person is eligible for full-time employment, because that very well may factor into the hiring decision. So that's really important. GPA is one of those controversial pieces of a resume. Some employers will say, I don't really need to see a GPA on a resume. Some employers will say a resume is or a GPA is crucial. If we don't know a GPA, then we're going to throw the resume in the trash. It's important to know that moving forward as you interview for a position or apply for a position with a company. It is absolutely okay for you to call a recruiter and say, hey, I just was wondering, is there anything that I need to make sure I have on my resume? Is there anything that I need to make sure I'm presenting so that I don't disqualify myself for employment? That recruiter's job is to help you present yourself in the best way. And so they're not going to be offended by that at all. Another thing that I always hate saying about high school information, really once you come to college, it's not relevant. We want you to replace high school involvement with college involvement. So if your resume is filled up with a whole bunch of high school information, it just signals to the employer that you haven't really gotten involved in college yet. You haven't had an opportunity to join organizations or do extracurricular activities. So try to replace that high school information with college. All right, so this is what it's going to look like. Again, reverse chronological order, most recent degree is first. So let's say you have a bachelor's degree and you are graduating this May, but you're also going to be getting a master's degree. You're going to list those separately, but reverse chronological order, meaning most recent first. University name, city and state, the degree name, and the expected graduation month and year. All right, so for our template, this is what it looks like. I would say a general rule of thumb for GPA, if it's a 3.0 or higher, you're going to list that on your resume. If it's lower than a 3.0, don't. But again, make sure you know what that is, what the employer's preferences are. Another thing to note is that you can put a major GPA. So maybe a student was a mechanical engineering student before, and it just wasn't something that they were passionate about. It wasn't something that they really wanted to do, and they didn't do very well in those classes, and now they found accounting and they're all A's, and so their accounting GPA is a 4.0. So it's okay if you list a major GPA or a college of business GPA or something like that. You just have to be ready for the question, because the employer is likely going to say, hey, I see your major GPA is a 3.8. Can you tell me what your overall GPA is and why that might be different? And you can explain those things. No employer is going to fault you if you say, hey, I'm going to be honest, my overall GPA is a 2.8. When I came to college, I was very immature. I wasn't taking things seriously. It took flunking out of a lot of classes for me to have that wake-up call moment. Now that I found my accounting degree and began taking accounting classes, I really was passionate about it. I enjoyed it. And now my GPA is much higher. It's a whatever. All right. So just be ready to share that story. Selected courses. Selected courses is an important part of the resume because a lot of times we don't have relevant work experience. Now, we still have transferable skills, and we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. But as far as hands-on experience with that specific career goal that we have. Maybe it is to be an auditor. And so we don't have auditing experience, but you're in college, you're getting these wonderful exposure to these classes. Selected courses is a great section to use on your resume if you have the classroom knowledge, but you haven't yet gotten an internship in that field that you're interested in. It is important to note that you can't list course names. Accounting 307 means nothing to an employer. In fact, in order to figure out what topic that is, they would have to pull up the university name and then the course catalog and then type in the course. And we know from that very beginning slide that the average employer looks at a resume for 6 seconds. So there's no way that they're going to have time or desire to pull up that course catalog and Google that course number. So be sure to include the course name. Don't get creative here. Look at your unofficial transcript and that will tell you the course name. I see a lot of made up names for courses. So make sure that you're being truthful and you're listing what it is actually on your transcript. All right, so again, space is the most valuable thing that we can focus on is fitting as much information as we possibly can in one space. So you're going to see for the template, I have selected courses and I've listed them in bullet points in 2 columns. And so this is really allowing you to nest as many of those in one spot as you can. Now, what classes do you choose to list? Well, you're going to choose to list classes that are relevant to the job that you're applying for. So if you're applying for a role in information technology, you're going to choose IT classes. If you're applying for a job in accounting, you're going to pick accounting classes. You're going to choose to highlight the ones that are most relevant. All right, projects is another section that is a possibility. Typically, students will either choose selected courses or projects. They're choosing one or the other. But projects is a section that you can showcase if you did something a little bit more hands-on in that class and you really want to highlight it and describe what you did in the class. For example, the course name might be business and entrepreneurship. And in that class, you wrote a business plan where you did a marketing plan and you did pro forma financial statements and you presented that marketing plan and you presented the business plan in front of a class of 100 students. Well, that's valuable for you to detail out. And so if you have a class where you've really done a cool project, you think that it showcases something to the employer, to the position that you're applying for, you can detail it out. And so that's what that would look like right there, where you're going to include the description. All right, work experience. I know I'm going a little fast. There's a lot of topics to cover for the resume, so bear with me. Again, this is recorded, so if you need to watch it back and pause and take a moment to edit your resume, then that's absolutely okay. All right, work experience. So what is considered experience? It can be full-time jobs, part-time jobs, self-employment, volunteer work, internships. I will often, talking with a student, find out that they have way more work experience than they ever put on a resume because they didn't feel like the nanny job that they had the summer before was relevant, or they were a bouncer at a bar and they didn't feel like that was professional to put on their resume. But all of those experiences are transferable skills. So transferable skills may not be directly relevant to the career that you're applying for, but they're transferable to that. All right. So an example, a student that had their own lawn mowing business for the last 3 summers, they've had 20 plus clients. They source all of their own clients. They do their own billing and collecting, customer experience. They have to purchase their own equipment and gas and all of those things. And they're wanting to be an accountant one day. All right. So is the lawn business relevant to accounting? Well, absolutely, transferably, because we're looking for accountants that have the ability to have initiative and be self-starters. Well, someone that ran their own lawn business for 3 summers would absolutely exhibit those skills. We want someone that is very detail-oriented and can keep track of things. Well, running your own lawn business does that. So you can see, even though it's not directly relevant, there's transferable skills. So what to include? You're going to include your job title, dates of employment, the company name, and the city and state. So looking at our resume template, you'll see here that we have the company. The job title is out of the bullet points. You do not want to put the job title in the bullet points. This is an important thing that a lot of candidates will miss, they won't put a job title at all. They'll just put a company name. And in that scenario, we don't know what you did. Were you the cashier? Were you the supervisor? Were you the shift lead? We don't know that unless you tell us. Another important thing is month year to month year. Now, the reason that this is important is because I oftentimes will see resumes and they will list just years, 2022 to 2023. Well, that could have been January 2022 to December 2023, which is a very long period of time, or that could be January or December 2022 through January 2023, which is 2 months period of time. So if you don't put those months, then it's really hard to determine how long you were with that employer. All right, another thing that we're going to include with our job experiences is bullet points that detail out what we were doing. So they're going to begin with action verbs. Action verbs are spearheaded, supervised, led, managed, things like that. And they're going to include quantifiers. Quantifiers are how often, how much. And that is a really great way for you to paint the picture or tell the story of what you did in that work experience. Work experience is going to be reverse chronological order. You've heard that a few times, I know, meaning most recent first. All right. You're going to tailor the job duties, the bullet points to what you're applying for. So if you're applying for a marketing role, you're going to pick out more of those creative types of responsibilities that you had at a position. If you're applying for something where you're working under pressure and lots of, I don't know, you're going to pick what is relevant to the position that you're applying for. All right. You want to be concise, but also provide enough detail. And then with our action verbs, we want to keep a consistent tense. So you can choose current job, current tense, past job, past tense, or something that might be easier is just keep everything in past tense, just so that you don't have varying tenses. That is something that is an immediate thing that I recognize on a resume. And another thing is vary your choice of verbs. If you use the same action verb, bullet point after bullet point after bullet point, it really shows the employer that either one, you're lazy, or two, you have a limited vocabulary. So it's important that you vary those verbs. You can do a Google search, verbs to use on a resume, and there are hundreds of them. There's lots of resources, so there's no reason that you should be limited in that stance. All right, so here's a formula for writing bullet points. First thing you're going to include is an action verb. Second thing you're going to include is a quantifier. And then the third thing is identifying what results came about because you did that job duty. So an example, edited. Edited is our action verb here. A monthly newsletter. So monthly is our quantifier. And then because you edited that monthly newsletter, what happened? You streamlined office communication. All right. Awards and honors. Again, I know I'm going so fast, but lots of information that we want to cover for our resume. Awards and honors is an optional section that you can put on your resume. It's completely up to you. You want to make sure you ask yourself, though, how many people received this award, and is it something I can hold a conversation about? I once had a student come to me and they said, hey, I would love to do a mock interview. Would you be willing to sit down and ask me a few questions? This is the position that I'm applying for. I want to make sure that I'm prepared for an interview. And I was looking at the awards and honors section, and it was received blah, blah, blah award, and then the date. And so I asked the students, like, tell me about this award that you've received. And he immediately got super red and started blushing. He was like, I wish you wouldn't have asked me about that. And I said, well, it's on your resume. It's fair game. And he said, well, I mean, it's silly. I applied for that award in high school. My mom actually wrote the essay for me to receive the award. And I looked at him and I said, get it off your resume. If there is anything that you would have to present yourself in a way that's not attractive to an employer, get it off your resume. Now, it's important to know that when we're in college, we're doing a lot of maturing. I had a student that worked at Taco Bell, and they were only there for 2 months. And they asked me, should I put this on my resume? I was only with Taco Bell for 2 months. And I said, well, why did you leave? And they said, I got fired. And I said, okay, tell me why you got fired. And they said, well, I never showed up to my shift on time. And I said, well, I see here that you've been working for Popeyes for over a year, and that's after Taco Bell. So tell me a little bit about Popeyes. And they said, well, I really, learning that important professionalism of being on time and showing up for my shift on time, I committed to myself that I was never going to be in that situation again where I got fired from a role. And I said, I want you to keep that on your resume, because I think that's an important thing for you to show employers, that you made a mistake, but you learned from that mistake. And now you have 1 year of tenure with Popeyes. And that really shows maturity, and it really shows growth. So again, there are some things that might be on your resume that are those teachable moments, those growing moments. But if it's not something you can hold a conversation about, take it off. A lot of our students are from Louisiana, so TOPS is an award that I see on a lot of resumes. TOPS is not something that is super competitive to get. If you're a highest level of TOPS, yes, maybe put that on your resume. Again, just ask yourself, how many people receive this award, and is it really impressive? Is this something that could sway the decision of someone that is choosing to hire me? All right, activities. Activities is absolutely such an important part of your resume, because we as employers want students that are, yes, academically gifted, they're committed in the classroom, but they also have experience working with others. They've been involved in extracurricular activities. They've been in a leadership role in a student organization. I oftentimes ask students, do you think it would be valuable for me to put on my resume that I was the president of the Underwater Basket Weaving Club? Now, I'm applying for a marketing role. Do you think that it would be valuable for me to put president of the Underwater Basket Weaving Club? And it's typically mixed responses, lots of no's. Why would they need to know that you were the president of the Underwater Basket Weaving Club? And then I say, well, as president, I was involved in, coordinating activities for members, where we would have over 100 members attend events, and I was responsible for marketing those events to those members. And they're like, oh, well, yeah, that's valuable. Again, transferable skills. A lot of the activities that we do in college are not going to be directly tied to the profession that you're pursuing after college, but they do demonstrate leadership skills, time commitment, experience working with others. So those are very, very valuable. Now, in my opinion, there's 2 ways that you can list extracurricular activities on your resume. One might be where you follow the format of the job. So it looks exactly like the experience section, where you're going to include an organization name, your position, dates of involvement, and then bullet points beginning with action verbs that detail the job duties. All right, so formatted very much like the work experience section. Now, if you are just a member of an organization and you don't really have those bullet points to be able to describe what you're doing, then you might start here. But then once you begin taking leadership roles within an organization, then you can do something a little more thorough like this. All right, last section that we're going to talk about, skills, software, and languages. This is an optional section on your resume, but it focuses on hard skills, not soft skills. I don't want to see on your resume time management, leadership, great communication skills. Instead, as an employer, I want you to show me through your extracurricular activities or through your work experience how you have developed those skills. It's that whole tell me versus show me. All right, so telling me would be, I have excellent communication skills. Showing me would be, I served as the communications chair for my sorority, where I was responsible for communicating with 150 members on a weekly basis about what was going on with our sorority chapter. Which one, as an employer, would you believe? I have excellent communication skills, or I've served as the sorority communications chair for the past year. Show me versus tell me. All right. All right, so one thing that you can always do is look at the job description. So the job description is going to show you what that employer is really wanting. For example, if a job description says that you need QuickBooks, or you need SAP software, or you need Visio or R analysis or something like that, then that's important for you to put on your resume if you have that software, that skill, okay? All right, some resume don'ts. Don't use things like I, me, and my. You're going to take all of the personal pronouns off of your resume. Don't include references. We've talked about this whole one-page rule and how we're maximizing space, and we've got this one page, one shot to show employers how awesome we are and why we should be hired. References is an entirely different page. Yes, it can look exactly like the resume, cover letter, references. They should all look like they're part of the same family, same heading, same font size, but those references go on a separate page. Don't put things like social security number, age, sex, height, weight, marital status, or a photograph. Photographs is a controversial one because Canva resumes have photographs in them. And so you'll say, why can't I put a photograph? Well, because there is such a thing as age bias, and whether an employer is intentionally having age bias, they could potentially look at your photograph and say, oh, that person looks too young. They must not have the skill that we're looking for. We never want to give an employer an opportunity to say no, a reason to say no. And so removing that photograph is just a way for you to eliminate that potential age bias. All right, so one thing that I want to show you is when I worked at Louisiana Tech, I had students that had a lot of different career goals, and they would say, gosh, it's my dream to work for whatever company. And I would say, all right, let's tailor those resumes and cover letters to really showcase that you're passionate about this brand, that it's not just a 1 in 100 resumes that you're papering the town with. Like, you really want to work for that specific organization. And this is an example of a student that she actually was in marketing, so she was looking for roles in branding, and she went into the back end of the Community Coffee website, pulled their fonts, pulled their color codes. She bought a package of Community Coffee and designed the resume to look exactly like that. So it really is, the resume is something that, yes, it should look professional, but you can lean into a company's brand. Another thing that is really interesting is a video resume. And I'm going to send out these slides so that you can actually view this video resume in detail. But this is an example of a student that did a video resume. She was very interested in a specific organization, and she leaned in to the mission of the organization and did this really cool video resume. And you'll see on her resume, there's a QR code. If you scan the QR code, it goes to this video. Just a really cool way to stand out. All right, now we're switching gears and going into cover letters. Cover letters is something that is supplemental, so it is going to be more of a story. So your resume is very abbreviated, very straight to the point. Your cover letter can be more of that storytelling piece, okay? So your cover letter is going to include why you're interested in that specific company or that specific role. It's going to highlight points on your resume, but not regurgitate them. It's going to show off your qualifications. So what is the formatting? The formatting is one page, approximately 3 paragraphs. You're going to include the same header that you use for your resume, copy and paste, and put that on a separate document. That's the formatting or the aesthetic of your cover letter. If you have the employer's name, that is always more valuable to send it directly to someone. But if you don't have that, you can send it to Dear Hiring Manager, Human Resources, something like that. So some important things to note is that you should research the company. So this is really going to allow you to make sure you're incorporating things in your cover letter that speak to that organization. Are they very community service focused? Are they very data focused? Whatever it is that's about that company, you have the ability to incorporate it in that cover letter. So your opening paragraph, it should establish why the heck are you reaching out to this organization? What is the purpose? It should detail why you're applying. Another thing is your body paragraph. So I mentioned 3 paragraphs, your intro paragraph. Why are you applying? Your body paragraph is going to highlight what do you have to bring to this organization. It's going to highlight things from your resume, your job experiences, your education, classes that you've taken. Be sure to include specific examples. I read a lot of cover letters and they say pretty generic things like, I have excellent communication skills. Again, don't just tell me, prove it. So that's an important piece, is give specific examples. I have great experience in data analytics. This is proven through the class that I took called blank, where I focused on blank, blank, and blank. All right, give examples. The next thing is a closing paragraph. Make sure you show appreciation. There are some examples of cover letters that are pretty aggressively worded. I've actually received one that was, I hope to hear from you by Friday, but if I don't, I'll be calling you. That's just a little too aggressive, a little too forceful. Just show appreciation. Thank you so much for reviewing my resume. I look forward to hearing back from you. I hope to have an opportunity to interview with you and tell you more about why I'm passionate about this position and your organization. All right, so now I want to talk about leveraging AI. So ChatGPT and all of these artificial intelligence generators are such a game changer for resumes and cover letters because you have the ability before to generate a cover letter for each job that you applied for would take way too long, all right? But now with AI, we can use it to make things more efficient. Yes, that's not the final draft that you're going to submit, but it's going to give you a starting point. It also allows you to incorporate things about an organization. So really customizing and then optimizing. You can optimize your resume based on keyword and skills. So there's something with resumes and applying called the applicant tracking system. And ATS is often a artificial intelligence that reviews a resume and determines if it meets the minimum requirements for the job to be considered moving forward. And so you can actually use AI to beat AI. You can use artificial intelligence to copy and paste your resume into that system and say, how can I incorporate more keywords into this resume so that it scores higher in an ATS? And so I've got a full article here that you can review on LinkedIn that's really, really great. There are some flip sides of AI. So you can't rely too heavily on AI because sometimes it makes things up and you don't want it to misspeak about your qualifications. It may not understand the specific job or the industry. So AI is a starting point, but not your final product. All right, so here are some prompts that you can use for AI. Develop a tailored resume for blank. Make sure you embrace the employer's perspective. Here is my professional background, and here's the job description. All right, so I'm going to show you what this looks like. So I took an opportunity just to pull up a LinkedIn job posting. I was hungry, so this is for Raising Cane's, but this is an intern role at Raising Cane's. All right, so let's say this is about the job, okay? Requirements for success, we've got all of that. So now I'm going over here to ChatGPT, and I'm going to say, I'm applying for a marketing internship with Raising Cane's. Here is the job description. And then I'm going to say, here is my resume. And I just pulled up a sample resume online. This doesn't belong to anyone specific. All right, so we're going to copy and paste here. And then we're going to say, help me tailor my resume to highlight the skills I have that Raising Cane's is looking for in this internship. Okay. So now we're going to give that prompt to ChatGPT. And so now what they are doing is they're rewriting that resume to incorporate more of the language, the keywords, the things that they are looking for in that specific role, and incorporating that verbiage. Now, another thing that we can do is using my resume above, write a cover letter for this role at Raising Cane's. So before, it would have taken so long to write these individual cover letters that are customized and personalized, but here we can use this as a starting point. Again, a starting point. Now, each month for these webinars, we're going to tackle a different topic. And so we're going to cover networking and preparing for job interviews and all of those things. But ChatGPT is really such an instrumental part of preparing for a lot of those things and preparing for networking scenarios. You can even say, using my resume, write an elevator pitch that I can use at a networking event. So here is an elevator pitch that you can use. We can say, using my resume above and the job description for the Raising Cane's internship, give me questions to prepare for a job interview. And then here are some questions that you can prepare for. So as far as ChatGPT or artificial intelligence as a whole, it's a game changer. It can make things more efficient. It can give you some really great starting points. Again, you have to be cautious with it. You have to make sure that there are guardrails that you're using, that you're proofing the content. As far as resumes and cover letters, that is everything that I wanted to cover for resumes and all the different sections. I'm going to email everyone that template that I was talking about and the slides that we went over today. I do want to open it up for questions. If anyone has any questions, you're welcome to ask. I know it can be a little embarrassing asking questions sometimes in an open forum. So I do want to give you my email address. It is jgeorge@hmvcpa.com. I can put that in the chat. So if at any point you have career questions and you want to ask a question, please, you're welcome to reach out. I just threw that in the chat box, jgeorge@hmvcpa.com. You can ask any career questions you have. I'm super passionate about careers. I hope you guys can tell that. I've been in the trenches with a lot of students as they figure out what their career goals were, helping them navigate those decisions, navigating what job offers to take and things like that. And so it's something that I find a lot of satisfaction in, is helping students figure out their future career paths. So if I can do that for you, please reach out. Does anyone have any questions? You're welcome just to come off mute or throw it in the chat box. All right, I don't think we have any questions, but again, we might have a question here. If you have questions, you're welcome to reach out to me at any time. Again, we will be doing these sessions once a month where we tackle different topics. This one is going to be recorded as well as all future sessions. So if you can't tune in live, go ahead and register. That way I can get you the materials that were provided for the webinar. But we're going to cover all topics in the future. So I encourage you to take a look at that, and we'll be emailing you with the resources for this webinar and the recording very soon. Thank you all so much for tuning in. And of course, if I could talk to you about internships or full-time opportunities with Heard McElroy and Vestal, of course, I would absolutely love that. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. I appreciate it.